Thanks, Alec, for the introduction. Thank you guys for joining. It has been a wonderful session so far, and it's truly overwhelming to end the session after such great talks by Rebecca, Frank, and Lance. And Rebecca, I think I resonate with each and every point you said. The process of designing a conversation design. I think you highlighted the importance of designing the personality because that's going to be very crucial for every voice designer. Now I'm going to share my screen. So welcome everyone. I'm going to quickly talk about 5 commandments that, as I call them, of VUI design or voice user interface design. My name is Vishnu and I run a company called VoiceCube. We've been a voice technology agency for the last 2 years and we've had clients across the globe. And now we are doing something very interesting. We are building something we call as the Netflix for voice devices, where we collect the most immersive experiences, stories, and games on a single app. So let me first talk about the shift in design thinking. So when we talk about a mobile app or a graphical user interface, you have certain visual cues that have specific tasks. So if you click on that particular button, you know that a particular task is executed or a particular function is called. So the user, through habit over the last 15 years, knows that he has to swipe those cards in order to see more cards. He knows that the bell icon represents notifications. He knows that when he clicks on the magnifying glass, it'll open a search bar. So all of these buttons and icons, they have formed habits in humans. And that's how we interact with all the applications that are there right now. But when we're talking about voice, it's a completely different ball game. But in fact, it's something that all the users are intuitively accustomed to right from their childhood. Language, communication, and voice has been in practice for the last probably thousands and 10,000s of years, right? So voice comes very intuitive for all the users, and it's very natural for anyone to ask a question in order to get an answer. While we design voice, we need to be prepared for all sorts of possibilities, not just the ones that we are trying to address. So let's say I'm trying to create a voice application for something like banking. I should be able to answer all sorts of error utterances as well. Like let's say somebody asks me about credit cards, or somebody asks me about how do I print an account statement, which I am not really addressing in my chatbot application. I should be able to give a sort of a contextual response of where they can get help from. I can't just leave them hanging saying, I'm sorry, I can't answer that, because you need to be very contextual in nature and you should be preparing your chatbot for all sorts of possibilities. So along with this, there are a couple more best practices, as I call it, that I'm going to take you through. First thing I'll talk about is the IVR system. All of us have called customer service at some point in our lives. And the customer service, whenever you call, it's going to start off with a menu. It says, okay, press 1 to make a new order. Press 2 if you'd like to return an order. Press 3, press 4, press 5, and so on. And then just when we think that, okay, after 9 it's going to be done, it says, but you can press the pound key or the hash key if you want to connect with an agent. And more often than not, everybody's complaint or everybody's query is mostly answered by an agent. So it's a lot of waste of time, right? I mean, if you are giving such a huge menu and if I have to wait until I hear the right option, it's not very intuitive. And with the advent of conversation technology and with the kind of tools that we have now, you can make it completely open-ended. You just dial a number and then it says, hi, welcome to Taco Shoes. How may we assist? And then you can freely say whatever you're looking for. I'm looking to buy new shoes. I'm looking to return my new shoes. Okay, let's say you say I'm looking to buy new shoes. Then comes the follow-up question, which says, that's great. Would you like to place your order over the phone or would you like to drop by our store? And then if you say, okay, I would like to drop by, then it's going to send you a notification with the nearest locations where these shoes are available. So conversation is much more intuitive, and this is the way to go forward, right? So IVR is obsolete. So when you're designing a voice application, keep it in mind that you need not design an IVR system, because the tools are so advanced that you can actually create an intuitive conversation. Okay, so there's a question. Who would you rather talk to, a robot or me? I know that a lot of us will be curious to say that a robot is more interesting to talk to, but there is one key aspect that humans still have, which is the emotional quotient. So when I'm talking to you about voice design right now, you can see some sort of enthusiasm, some sort of passion in me about this particular topic. At the same time, when you're talking to, let's say, your kids, or let's say people in your friends and family, you know that certain people have certain words that they repeat, or certain way of pronouncing some phrases, which actually trigger an emotional response in you. So voice is actually a very underrated medium, right? So when you hear music, any sort of audio content, it triggers an emotional response in you. In the similar fashion, compared to an Alexa talking to you, if you have a voice artist or someone, or a more human like voice which is talking to you with the emotional quotient, it is definitely more appealing. So when you're designing a voice application, make sure that your responses are not very robotic, but actually you invest on, let us say, a voice artist who's recording the responses in the tone and in the emotion that you want to address your users. So that's going to create a lot of emotional appeal, and it's going to make the entire experience more appealing. Yeah, so monotonicity, yeah, it's a big problem. Now, what would you rather eat for the rest of your life? This burger on the left side, or a variety of dishes like a pizza, Manchuria, and sushi? I mean, if the burger is looking that tasty, maybe some of you would pick the burger. But in general, um, repetition is boring, and creating monotonous response, they are a complete no when it comes to voice user interface design. Because I'll give you an example. So let's say every time you open the skill, or you try to invoke a chatbot, if you're getting the same kind of responses, right? Thank you for talking to this chatbot. See you again next time. If it's the same thing coming again and again, it's very predictable, and it doesn't have the kind of human nature that we want to achieve when we are trying to make these bots more human-like. So when you're trying to give any sort of response, try to randomize your response. Try to have 3 or 4 or probably 5 responses that out of which you pick something randomly and you dish it out to the user. So that probably, like, let's say for kids, right? So one day you say, okay, thank you for playing this game. We'll look back. We are looking forward to seeing you again. And in the second time he plays, it says, okie dokie, we hope you had great fun, Alex, or something like that. So that kind of creates newness for the entire voice experience. So that is something that I would recommend. And these images, right? So I'm sure a lot of you would recognize these, and some of us might even hear these images. So these are just images, but you can listen to, an audio that's associated with each. So if you see the first image, it's Rocky. And I went there to Philadelphia, and even now, after 4 decades, people run on the stairs listening to Rocky music. So these images have certain voice or audio associated with them. The Star Wars opening scene, or the Netflix logo reveal, or the 20th Century Fox logo reveal. So audio branding is a huge topic, and audio branding is a huge influence on your voice experience. So let us say you're trying to create a personality for your bank, or you're trying to create a personality for your cupcake shop. You can use music, you can use audio cues, and you can use certain narration or certain sound effects to create and to recreate and reinforce your branding in the form of an audio. So your branding is no longer just your logo and tagline, but also your personality and an audio associated with it. So if you create all these music and sound cues, sound effects, and audio branding for your voice skill, it's going to create a much more enhanced experience as a user. And whenever the user listens to this audio, probably on other platforms, let's say he continuously uses Alexa, and then suddenly he stumbles on Facebook chatbot, and then he listens to this audio, he's able to associate. So audio branding is very important if you're trying to have a cross-platform strategy. It's going to make sure that your users identify you, recognize you, and the context is immediately set in place. And then, yeah, not annoy your user. So let's say whenever your internet disconnects, whatever file you're downloading has to restart from the beginning. It's very annoying, right? Or let's say you're watching a movie on Netflix and you had to take a call. So, and then when you're resuming Netflix, it doesn't start at the point where you left it. That's again, a very annoying situation. And what if every time we spoke, I acted as a stranger? And that would be very weird, right? So these are some rookie mistakes that a lot of voice designers and voice developers make. So use persistence, like store the session in a database and try to retrieve the session, try to understand the context when a session is resuming. So I think that would be very helpful, and it's going to be much more productive, keeping in mind the user's time. So the user would have that feeling that this voice bot is actually smart, and this voice bot is intelligently understanding where I left it, and it's able to give me contextual responses rather than going through the entire process of recreating the dialogue again. So persistence is another thing which I highly recommend in your voice application. So just to recap, the first commandment is that design a conversation, not an IVR system. So don't go about keeping an entire menu and asking them to select based on numbers. It's very annoying. It's not needed. With the current set of tools that we have, you can actually design a proper conversation. And then second one is use voice artists for emotional appeal. So whenever you use voice artists to give the responses back, it creates much more emotional appeal than a robotic voice that's given by default. Then have a diverse set of responses and deliver them at random. Surprise the user. So this surprising factor is also going to boost the appeal of your voice application. And then, yeah, use music, audio cues that can create audio branding for your particular organization and the personality of the voice bot that you're building. Remember the context to make the conversation less annoying. So I think this is very, very important, because that's how you actually come out as smart. And these are some of the most important lessons that I've learned over the course of last 3 years. And I've seen many developers and designers make these mistakes time and again. So from me, I think these are 5 commandments that I would consider when you're trying to design a voice user interface. And if you have any questions right now, I'll be happy to answer.